Surprise! Hey everyone, it's Ray from Being Bookish. And yes, I am fully aware I only sent out an episode last week and I have gone fortnightly. However, this week I have a special guest. That is author Heidi Swain talking about her brand new book, All Wrapped Up, which is released this coming Thursday, the 11th of September. We had a great chat, which you're going to hear very, very shortly, all about books, her writing processes, how she came up with the characters, and that genuine autumn feel the book brings with it. As I say quite a few times during the during our conversation, it has a very Hallmark movie autumn feel to it. And if you love that kind of book, you will definitely love this. So let's get on with the show. Okay, and I am here today with author Heidi Swain to talk about her brand new novel, All Wrapped Up, which comes out on the 11th of September. It is very autumnal, and as a friend of mine said when I talked about it with her, it sounds very Hallmark. And
I like that.
And she loves Hallmark films. She's a horror girly through and through, but she loves Hallmark. So thank you so much for joining me today to talk about your new book and all your others as well, because there are quite a few of them.
There are quite a few. Thank you for inviting me. And yeah, if anybody from Hallmark happens to be listening, then just drop my agent a line. That would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
It's the one thing that comes across greatly. I read one of your Christmas books, That Festive Feeling. We read it for our book club last year, and they have this cozy, almost Gilmore Girls autumn winter feel about them. You want to be sitting there wrapped up with a blanket, fire blaring in the fireplace, and hot chocolate with marshmallows or whipped cream, because I don't really like marshmallows. So would you say that, though I know you have written several summer themed or sort of early summer themed novels as well, would you say that autumn, winter is your favorite season to write about?
Do you know, I think it is actually. So All Wrapped Up is book number 21.
Wow, that's
it's a lot. So we celebrated 20 books in 10 years in April with the release of Best Summer Ever, which is also a series book. And so what I do is I write a Christmas book and a summer book and a Christmas book and a summer book. So we've been writing 2 books a year for a long time now. My editor asked me it's about this time last year, actually, if I fancied writing an autumn book. And lots of people had asked me at events and things, when are you going to write an autumn book? When are you going to do it? And I thought, you know what, that I can really get on board with, because autumn is my absolute favourite season, and I love Christmas too. And when I started writing the Christmas books, I did quite a lot of reader research, and I asked readers, what do you want to see in a Christmas book? And one of their biggest gripes at the time, so we're talking probably 8 years ago now, their biggest gripe was when it had Christmas in the title and then there was nothing to do with Christmas actually in the story.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You'd expect there to be Christmas or festivities, trees and everything else in a Christmas book.
Absolutely. So going forward, if I've written a book about Christmas, it's packed full of Christmas, and I wanted that to be the same with the autumn one. And yeah, I do. I absolutely love writing them because it's full. It gives me the opportunity to pack them full of things that I love. So yeah.
So do you want to tell people about All Wrapped Up? Obviously, we do no spoilers on the podcast, because I always my thing is always, if you want to find out what happens at the end and everything else, even if you know it's going to be a happy ever after, read the book to find out how they get there.
Yes.
So
yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. So All Wrapped Up is set in Wynbridge, which was that was actually the first series that I started writing. So we've had.
And there's 11 books in that series.
There's a lot of books in that series. Now, I wasn't going to commit to a number because off the top of my head, I couldn't remember. So thank you for that.
I'll do my research.
There we go. I love that. Thank you very much. So when it came to writing an autumn book, the Fens just gave themselves beautifully to that, because, the fields are full of pumpkins and I just thought this is going to be the perfect place. So we've got Clemmy. Clemmy's been living on the outskirts of Wynbridge in her little cottage, Rowan Cottage, for about 18 months. A grieving widow, completely apart from her family. Her family live in a different part of the country, and she's very much on her own, and she's needed to be on her own. She's done exactly what she needed to do for herself to cope with her grief through losing her husband. But obviously, at the start of the book, she has a visit from a Wynbridge local and character regular in these books called Lizzie Dixon. And Lizzie wants to draw Clemmy out of it. She wants to get her involved in community life. And I think it's fair to say she does put a bit of pressure on her to bring Clemmy out of herself. Yeah. Actually, that turns out to be exactly what Clemmy needs. And as she continues on her journey, she gets to meet wonderful Ash, who is a vet, fairly new to the area, like Clemmy, and the most amazing little rescue dog called Pixie, who I've loved writing about. And I'm not going to tell you anything about Pixie. You've got to read the story to find out what happens with her. And so it's all about Clemmy and Ash getting to know each other, Clemmy coming further to terms with her grief and what she's deciding that she wants to do with the rest of her life in Wynbridge.
That's the thing I love with Clemmy. I loved the way that you slowly had her coming out of her shell, as almost as though the recovery, she'd experienced the recovery time that she needed. Yeah. And she was getting close to these people. I mean, Lizzie and Gemma and Joanne. Yeah. Joanne. Character. And of course, Jason, whose story becomes far clearer. His animosity and everything is very interesting. There's always one curmudgeon, I think.
Yes. Got to be. But I did think really, really carefully about where Clemmy was on her grief journey, because I didn't want her to be a widow of 3 months, because the journey that I wanted to take her on wouldn't have happened. And so I wanted her to have had the time that she needed. And then I wanted to just treat her really gently and really carefully and slowly wake her up again, if you like, if that's the right way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I felt like I've done in this book. And then, towards the end, we see her life. We do see her life transformed, but obviously she's always going to be impacted by what's happened to her. And I think that's really important to sort of pay homage to that in the book as well.
I was going to say, one of the things that we experience with this, obviously, is it's not only Clemmy whose life was affected by her husband passing, it was also his parents. And we see their recovery as well, as she's getting to the point where she thinks maybe she is ready, because Lizzie has visited and kind of given her this idea almost, even though she's reluctant. She also gets the news at the same time that his parents are now ready to move on themselves. So it's kind of like the recovery is twofold.
Yeah, I'm pleased that you flagged that, actually, because they're not characters that we ever see in the book, but I thought it was important to mention them as well and what they'd been through losing their son. So that's why I put them in the same town as Clemmy's parents, so we could still see that connection between the family. And obviously Clemmy's relationship with them had changed because it was a real tragedy what happened to her husband. So we've got lots of moving on, but in people's own I've been through grief myself, and I know quite a few, and sadly I know quite a few young widows, and I think people, they're well-meaning, but they kind of, I don't know, they can try and push in a bit, and they imagine themselves in the position of that person, and they perhaps want to say, you should be doing this, or it's time that you did that. And of course, nobody has the right to tell you that. It's everybody's individual journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my mum was 30 when my father passed away.
Yeah.
So obviously she was a young widow and she had 3 young children. So her journey would have been very, very different, because while she would still be grieving, she has the grief of others that can't necessarily cope on their own. So there's the support aspect of it. And as part of it feels as though Clemmy was not in any way able to support anyone else in their grief. So moving away was possibly the best thing to do anyway.
Yeah, I think it was definitely the right thing for her. Her husband's parents, they had each other. Um, and Clemmy just couldn't bear to be there for reasons which will become obvious when people read the book. So she took herself away, and she gave herself that privacy, and she gave herself that time, and that's what she's needed.
But obviously you also had the elements of she's a social media influencer, but very, very private about it at the same time.
Yeah, her secret Insta account, which was really fun to think about. As was her cottage, actually, because it's autumn and she does a lot of house dressing as the season progresses, as do I. So anybody who follows me on Insta will see my house all dressed up for the autumn. And I didn't actually realise when I was writing it how much of myself I was putting into her autumn journey as much as anything else. So that's that was interesting. When you go back and read that first draft for the first time, you think, well, they're my lights, and that's my garland, and that's my cushion, and I've given them all to Clemmy. So yeah,
She is very passionate about autumn.
Yeah.
And it feels as though the season itself is something of a character, because obviously we have the whole story of Moses and his desire for this autumnal festival, which he is unable to continue for himself.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the town, well, most of the town, get involved in making it happen.
Yeah, and so settings always play a really big part in my books, but this time the season did as well. And I also brought in Molly the witch from Winthorpe Hall, and she helps Clemmy with part of her journey. So autumn, it's all about that harvesting and letting go and getting ready to hunker down for a fresh start in the new year or in the spring. That I wanted to kind of bring in all those elements that would also help Clemmy with her journey. And yeah, this story just kind of felt like the right place for all of that, really.
So it was your autumnal season rather than Christmas this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So when the book ends, Wynbridge is just getting ready to gear up for Christmas, which we won't see this year. But I included all the things, you mentioned the autumn festival there. Again, I included all the things that I would love to go and do at an autumn festival. So felt very indulgent, this one.
It was something, it was what you'd like to experience. Do you ever think that you'd do a spring instead of an early summer?
See, now I'm not going to answer that, because I might automatically go no.
And then change your mind.
Well, because this time last year, I didn't even know that there was going to be an autumn. So I'm going to say never.
Because spring, again, is another season of renewal, whereas summer, everything's
it's all up and running. So you kind of, because I'm very much connected to the natural world myself. If you follow me online, you'll see I take a daily walk to the woods. That's my commute in the morning. 6:30 to 7:30, a walk to and around the woods is my commute before I get my bum on the seat in the writing room. So spring, Nightingale Square would be a beautiful place to have a spring story, because that's set around a community garden. So
I think that's what that festive feeling was based in, Nightingale Place.
Yes, it is. So, that would be the perfect place, bringing the community garden, the grow well, back to life in the spring. So if I get an email from my editor next week saying, how do you fancy writing a spring story next week? We will see. We'll see.
So I think that's the thing. It's, how did you come up with these characters? Because as you said, Lizzie has been in the books previously, and her story was in the first book, The Cherry Tree Cafe.
Cherry Tree Cafe was Lizzie Dixon's first book, so that was the very first book. So it just kind of feels so lovely. You just, when I thought of Clemmy, and I'd already got the setting, I just thought of which characters would work best for this story. What's the town going to need? What does the town want? What's the town missing? And who are the characters that we already know that would want to bring that to life and can bring somebody new in. So as you build up this series, you've got more and more characters that you can draw on and think, oh, well, they'd be brilliant for this and they'd be perfect for that. So that's really nice to go back to. It actually feels like I'm going back to a real town now. I'm quite disappointed that there's not a Wynbridge somewhere, really.
I think that's it, though. These characters are very real, because you have Clemmy with her grief, and you have Ash with living away from his family and his mum being sick. It's his grandmother, isn't it? His grandmother,
yeah.
stroke, and going to help his parents with her care and
Yeah,
obviously being massively concerned about her. Then you've got Joanne, who is the wannabe matchmaker, who
yeah,
is, as Clemmy rightly confronts her with, not compensating for something.
yeah.
Not going to go into what.
Joanne was the hardest character to get in this book, I think. It was a fine line between making her too much of a pain in the butt, but not pushing quite hard enough to see that there's something else going on with her here. There has to be. Nobody could be this annoying, surely. And and sure enough, she has got more going on than is revealed early on. But yeah, she was a tricky one. Even though she's got a relatively small part in the book, she was the one who gave me the most trouble. Not gonna
But,
lie.
but she does, that's the thing, though she has got a small part in the book, she has quite a large role to play.
Yes, she does. She has a really big influence. So that's why you want to get her right, because even though she's not on the page all that much, when she is there, she's impactful. Shall we put it that way? She has impact, doesn't she? Yeah.
She really does. But obviously, one of the most important characters in the book is Pixie,
Pixie.
who
Oh,
is adorable,
yeah.
absolutely adorable. My heart broke for her every time I read about her.
She was
She was just, I could imagine her.
yeah. Well, actually, where I'm sitting, I've got in the writing room, I've got this massive pin board. You know, when you order something online and you think it's going to be a sensible size, and it either comes and it's the size of a thimble or the size of the wall.
Yes, I've done
Yeah.
that a few times.
So I've got a pinboard that's kind of the size of the wall, and I found a little picture of a dog online, and it's Pixie, and I printed it off, and Pixie is still on the pinboard. I can't bear to take her down. She won't be going anywhere until the book's absolutely published.
But not only that, once you can write about her again when you revisit Wynbridge.
Yeah. And all of my books have got dogs in, or practically all of them have got dogs in, because I don't have a dog myself. I couldn't commit to a dog, but I love the thought of having a dog.
Yes.
So I've got all of my favourite breeds in the books. That's another indulgence of mine. So I've got an Irish Wolfhound and I've got a Chihuahua. They're a whole spectrum of dogs in the books. But Pixie, I really think, is gonna find her way into people's hearts. It's all.
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, she's
Thank you.
there from very, very much the beginning of the book and has such
Yeah.
an important role to play.
Yes, she does. She does. And the journey that she goes on, I love the way that it kind of echoes what's happening to Clemmy and how it brings Clemmy and Ash together as well. It's I'm pleased with this one. I'm happy with this one. I'll give this one a tick in the box. I'm chuffed with this.
Do you think you have favourite characters, though?
In this book or in general?
In general.
Oh, yes, I think there are some that do stay with me more than others, and that's probably because I've worked with them for such a long time. So like the Winthrop Hall family, Angus Connolly, as much of a nuisance as that man is, he's just wonderful, he's adorable. And I love Gemma as well, who actually owns the Cherry Tree Cafe. Gemma's never had a book of her own because she doesn't need one,
because she's already happily married and everything's sorted for her.
Got the business, and her life is just, it's nice, I think, to have a character whose life is just running as it should. Her life runs like clockwork, and I love that for Gemma. But she plays a really important part in other people's stories. So even though she's never been a main character, she is a favourite of mine. I love Gemma.
She was quite an important character in Lizzie's story, though, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. She saved Lizzie in lots of ways, I think. And I love the partnership that those two women have got. I think that's something really, really special. And I've enjoyed seeing that develop over all the books. Their business has just grown and grown. It's a little empire now, really. So yeah, that's great. I'm all for these strong women with their businesses. That's wonderful.
Absolutely. So I think that's it with these characters. You've got this community, and while obviously you have the main characters who are sometimes new to the village or they've been on the periphery,
it
is always a case of the story continues developing. So you see, obviously, we know that Lizzie is happily married, and you can see that development as you go on. It's kind of like they're getting their epilogue every single time you write a new book.
I do like to do that. Lizzie's not married yet, though. They're
Uh,
not. They're not
they're
married.
partners.
I haven't. I haven't written a wedding book yet. Maybe at some point we'll have to have a couple of these characters getting wed. I'll think about that. But yeah, there are certain characters that I always like to bring back in if I can, and it is nice to see how their lives are developing and what's sort of changing in the background of other people's stories. So yeah, I love to do that.
I do. I have read a number. Paige Toon is another author who has done that with a lot of her books.
Yeah,
And I like being able to see, oh, well, that's a mention of that character as you move along. So you get the hint of, oh, I saw them with this, that, and the other. And it's like, oh, so that's how their story continued.
I like that, and I really like it because readers find that really exciting as well. Because which book was it? It was I think it's Underneath the Christmas Tree. So that is set on the North Norfolk coast in Wynmouth, where Best Summer Ever is also set. And in Underneath the Christmas Tree, it's all about a coastal Christmas tree plantation where they rent out potted Christmas trees. And when they have an open day on one Saturday, Catherine Connolly, who is a Wynbridge character, she turns up in Wynmouth because, of course, these are all in East Anglia. So that's quite that, and there are other connections. There's a connection between Gemma and Nightingale Square as well. So it's quite nice to see a character from another series turning up in a completely different place. And not everybody will get that, and you write the character so you don't have to know it. But if you've read all the other books and you do spot that character, that feels like a real treat for people.
They're little Easter eggs.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So do you you've said that you do have your favorite character. Do you have a book that you sit back and you think, I could write a sequel to this and it'd be an absolute definitive sequel rather than a continuation with someone else's story?
I think that's quite hard to say for a series because everybody's books have kind of carried on. And I've only written 2 standalones so far, and that was The Holiday Escape and The Book Lovers Retreat. I would quite like to write a follow-up to The Book Lovers Retreat. That was a really, really special book, and the way the inspiration landed for that was really exciting. And I could see a second book there. I don't know whether I will ever do that, but yeah, that might be somewhere nice to go back to. That's set in the Lake District, and based around it's a lodge. So the book is all about these 3 women who fell in love with the book as a teenager, not dissimilar to what we were talking about before we started recording.
A Room with a View.
Actually, A Room with a View, yes. And so these 3 teenagers fell in love with the book, and then a film was made of the book, and you can go and stay in the lodge where the film was filmed. And that's what the book is all about. These women going there and having to introduce somebody else to their party because there's somebody who drops out. And there's a really nice little community there, and yeah, there's scope there for a sequel, but whether that will happen, I don't know. I haven't got time to do it at the moment. So many other books to write.
So how do you, when you're thinking about the next story, how do you come up with the characters and their storyline? Or is it a case of you see something in real life, or you read something that is not somebody else's book? I'm talking about read something in the news or in passing that gives you that spark of inspiration, or is it just you sit down and I know exactly where I want to go with this?
For me, it's always the setting always has to come first. I always have to dress the stage before I can let anybody walk in and see who's going to perform in that place. It's got to be. I have tried once and failed miserably to plan a book where I hadn't got the setting nailed. I tried to come up with the characters and what their story was before I knew where they were going to be acting, if you like. And it didn't work. But as soon as I got the setting in place, it was like, oh, yeah, why didn't you do that? That's been your process for the last 19 books. Why did you change it? So for me, it has to be the setting. It's always easier, she says, putting air quotes around those words, when it's a series, because you've already got that landscape and you've already got that background cast of characters who you can make work with the main players. Writing a standalone in the same amount of time as the series is really, really hard because you've got all of the world building to do. You've got to create everything from scratch. So, in terms of inspiration, sometimes it will be so, like for Clemmy's story, I wanted to tell the story of a young widow and her journey. So that was the inspiration for that. That was the crux of it. Sometimes you'll see something on the TV, the Book Lovers Retreat. My daughter and I were watching the Netflix series Sex Education.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, there's an absolutely beautiful house. Love this house. And my daughter said to me, "Oh, did you know that you can rent that?"
Yeah, it's an Airbnb, isn't it? I think
that's it. And I was like, "No, I didn't know that." So then we had a little look online, and I said, "Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could go and stay in somewhere that had been used to film something else?" And that was where that idea came from. So it can literally be anything from anywhere, which I know doesn't nail it down at all, but that's exactly how it is. And I think each book is very, very different. And that's something that it's taken me a long time to get my head around. Writing writing my 22nd book now, and it's completely different to writing the 20th and the 21st. So I never sort of think, "Oh, well, I've done it all before, so I know what I'm doing." No, because each one is it's a fresh adventure. That's the spin I'm putting on it.
Even if you have the background characters and the location set out.
Does that make it easier?
Yes.
Yes, as long as that background and those characters can support the story that you want to tell. And I don't like to write books with the same setting back to back. So, for example, All Wrapped Up is set in Wynbridge, so the book that comes out next won't be set in Wynbridge. I like to have a bit of variety and have a bit of a gap between the series and the standalone. So sometimes you might have a sort of a bit of a holding pattern in your head. You might have a story that you want to tell, but because you want to put it in that particular place and the last book was in that place, you might just need to put it on ice and let it wait a year or 18.
Do you make notes though?
Yes, I have a lot of notebooks. Every book I write has its own A5 notebook, and I do a lot of planning. I can't be a pantser. I haven't got time to be a pantser, because if I get 6 months in and I've got to deliver the book and I've not decided where the book ends, that's no good. So lots of plotting, lots of note taking, lots of frantic notes on my phone at about 3 o'clock in the morning when I haven't got my glasses on. I did that. I literally did that last night. I was just turn my light off and reading. And I thought, "Oh, I know what will work really well in that scene." Well, you should try reading it this morning with my glasses. I kind of got the gist of what I meant, so that was interesting.
It was in another language entirely.
Absolutely, yeah. We've gone into Tolkien's Elvish, I think, but never mind.
But that's the thing that I think it's interesting that you say, you're a planner. I know so many authors who are meticulous planners.
Yeah.
And then you'll find the occasional author who says, "Oh no, I just write."
Get an idea and go for it. I always have a plan. My editor and my agent like to see the plan, so we know where we're going and we know what the main themes are. Quite often when my editor then reads the first draft, she'll say, "Well, that changed," or we didn't have that in the plan. I never want to be so rigidly attached to the plan that when I've got about 33,000 words in and I've got to know the characters, that I'm too confined by the planning to let them evolve. So if I've planned something and the character shakes their head, then I'm happy to go with them, as long as we're not, I don't know, going off in a rocket to Mars or something ridiculous, or time traveling. I can't let them do that. I can't let them do that.
No, that sort of extends. Yeah,
that's a different genre. So I have the plan, but I am not afraid to let the story evolve, because until you start writing it, I don't really think you know what it's going to be.
that is very true. With these characters, they seem very real. Are they based on people that you know, or are they completely the creation of your imagination made real on the page?
Yeah, I don't like to base characters on people that I know. I think I'd find that really restricting. You might see somebody walking along and they've got a certain, I don't know, they walk in a certain way, or they talk to the person they're with in a certain way. They might dress in a certain style. So you might take elements of things like that and put into a character. But I wouldn't want to pick somebody up off the street and then put them into my book. So I think it's taking your time to get to know the character. And quite often when I finish a book, the character who finishes the book isn't the same character who started the book. So then you have to go back to the beginning and get them to match up, because they have evolved as you've got to know them, and how they might have reacted early on might not be the way they react at the end. And if that isn't part of their journey, then I want to go back and change them so that becomes cohesive.
Especially when it's covering a specific period of time. I mean,
Yeah,
if you were writing Clemmy right after the events that took her husband versus Clemmy at the end of the book, there is 20 months between those
yeah,
two periods of time, and
yeah,
a lot can change.
yeah. There's a world of difference. There's a long time between losing her husband and us meeting her in this book. And she's finding herself again. She's a different person because of what she's been through. So there are elements of the old Clemmy in there, things that she loves, what she does, what she's doing with her life, not what she's doing for a living, but what she's doing with her life, renovating this cottage. You kind of see how that's relevant as
Yeah.
the book unfolds. So there were all those sorts of things that I wanted to keep. But it's inevitable, isn't it? Everything we experience in life changes us, I
Yeah,
think.
I agree completely. We evolve
Yeah,
every single day. A little piece of us changes.
yeah, yeah. And I really wanted to I kind of wanted to show that too. I hope I've done that.
I think so. I know that obviously my heart broke for Clemmy when you're reading about, especially when she finds the letter and it makes her think about the
Yeah,
person she used to be and the person that she wants to become. But
yeah,
also when she is developing the bond with Pixie and stepping outside of her comfort zone,
yeah,
because you get the feeling that she was far more outgoing and far more confident before everything happened, and she starts to become that woman with another element, with another dimension to her,
yeah,
because she's now having to step out on her own
yeah,
without that support network behind her.
yeah, absolutely. And I kind of felt like Ash was the perfect person to help her, really. He's just can't say too much, can
No,
we?
we
But
can't say
he's
too much. There's so
can't
many
say too
things
much.
I wanted to
I
say,
know.
and I'm thinking, no, that spoils it.
Yeah, but Ash is just he's a great character. He's a guy who I could really get on board with. Ash, I loved him. Um,
It's
I'm
going to
sorry.
be interesting to see if they play a part in the next book based in Wynbridge.
They are going to have to get a mention, aren't they?
Oh,
Absolutely. And
absolutely. Even if it's just Pixie.
yeah, yeah. Even if it's just Pixie flying solo, perhaps the next one will be Pixie's book. I don't know. Perhaps the spring book could be, Pixie's springtime adventure. You never say never.
In the park, she could go to Wynmouth.
Yeah, yeah.
Or Nightingale.
Yeah, yeah, she could. She could go and join some of the dogs there. But oh yeah, Pixie, such a sweetheart. Loved her.
So, is she your favorite in this? Do you have a favorite character in this book?
In this book, oh, I
I
think
love
it's.
putting people on the spot.
Oh, yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that. Oh crikey! Well, I think it's got to be Clemmy, and I know people say, "Well, you're going to say that because she's the main character," but it's just her. Her story felt so intimate and so special, and I felt really privileged, if that doesn't sound silly, to be able to tell her story and hopefully do it justice.
That's,
So
I don't think it's unfair to say she's your favorite character. The main character isn't always the favorite in a book.
no, but in this one. It's Clemmy for sure, but Ash is a very, very close second for reasons that will become obvious
Oh,
when
yes,
people read the book.
absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I mean, this is your 21st novel in 10 years.
Isn't that bonkers? Isn't that just
That's
crazy?
a lot of books in 10 years.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I've got most of them. Well, no one can see other than you because we've
No,
got our
I can
cameras
see all
on,
the
but
colours.
you can see, and there's some foreign editions down on the bottom shelves as well. But I have those there, so when I'm writing, if I have a frustrating moment, I can just spin around on my chair and look at them and go, "Look what you did! Look what
Yeah,
you did!" And you can do it again. Keep going. It's that kind of a thing.
absolutely. I think that's it though. It's a massive accomplishment, but also it is a sort of like you look at it and think, wow, I've done this and I can do it again.
Yeah. But it gets hard. It doesn't get any easier. I was talking to other author friends a couple of weeks ago about this. I think the more you write, the harder it gets because you constantly want to be better.
And you don't want to be telling the same story over and over again.
No, no, absolutely. You want to find something new, something exciting. And I've got a little post-it note which is just pinned up here in front of me as a reminder for this time of year. So this was written on the 6th of February 2022.
Wow.
And it says, draft one is a muddle, a mess, and a total nightmare to write. This note is a reminder for next time around when I've forgotten the pains of labour. And I will never get rid of that because it's just, and I'm
It's
thinking,
true.
if I did it in 2022, if I was feeling that way at that point in 2022, it's fine to be feeling it now because that 2022 book is somewhere here on the shelf. It
Yeah,
got it got done. It all came together in the end.
exactly. As the fact that the book is on the shelf
Yeah.
tells you. I think it's one of those things when it comes to writing, everybody has their own way of doing it. Everyone has their own way of creating the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And while there will be some stories that are the same as the story that somebody else has read, the fact that people are reading it means they enjoy it.
Yeah.
I've read
Yeah.
a multitude of books that are exactly the same as something else and thought, oh, okay. And then I pick up the next one.
Yeah. Different way of telling the same story.
Because the characters are very different.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I love about it is every single book, it could be exactly the same kind of plot,
Yeah.
but the characters are different because every person who writes is different.
Yeah.
We aren't AI, we're not clones.
No, we're not. We're not. Let's not go there. Let's not
Yeah,
go there today.
but it is that whole thing of we are unique
Yeah.
individuals, therefore we are going to look at things and tell them from a different perspective
And we're
because
going to
our own
bring our
personal
own,
experiences are
yeah,
different.
going to bring our own experiences to it, our own background, you know, what we've been through in relationships, what we've been through in life,
Yeah.
and you know, you bring all of that to the table when you're writing a book. And I don't think when people say, "Oh no, I don't think I put any of myself in any of my books." Well, there's all of me in all of mine. I can pick up every single book and recognise parts of myself.
And this one is the love of autumn.
Love of Autumn. A total indulgence this book is. So thank you, Claire Hay, editor at Simon and Schuster, for giving me that opportunity. I really ran with it.
I mean, the cover itself is very autumnal.
Isn't
It's
it
the
glorious?
beautiful greens and the vibrant oranges and reds. It's very warm.
It's beautiful. And yeah, Pip Watkins, who's the designer of this cover, she has designed every single one of my covers, all of them. Her name is on all of them. And you know, she sends through, or she'll send my editor the cover try. My editor will send it to me, and it is so rare that I ask for anything to be changed. Occasionally, it might be, I think for Best Summer Ever, it was, can we put them in sandals instead of shoes or something
Which
ridiculous?
makes it very summery.
It was a tiny, tiny thing, and I don't actually think we changed anything on here. They asked for a description of Rowan Cottage, so I guessed before I saw the cover that the cottage would be going on the cover, and here it is in all its glory.
Yep.
And it's perfect. It's beautiful. I'm thrilled with it. Absolutely love the colours. Yeah.
It does give the feeling of autumn,
Yeah.
Halloween,
Yeah.
the lighting of lanterns and everything else. I love the creative aspects of it. I think that that's the thing. If you can imagine these things occurring,
Yeah.
I've got friends who are very autumnal in their mood. The minute it gets to September, they are immediately looking for the cooler weather.
Yeah.
It's turning, whereas I'm sitting there going, please don't rain again.
See, now I'm very happy with that. I am thrilled. I've got my fairy lights on, and we were watching Game of Thrones last night, and a friend of mine, Sue Baker, bought me a candle that smells like of wood smoke.
I've got a couple of those
Gosh.
because I know of there is a really good candle maker who comes to our local market. It's fantastic. So I've got quite a few of her candles, including one that smells like pina colada.
Oh, nice. Well, I was with
Lovely.
a wood smoke last night, and a cup of tea. I've switched out my summer Emma Bridgewater mug now for the Tawny Owl Harvest one. And normally, I wouldn't dress the house until the equinox because I celebrate the wheel of the year. So
Yes.
at the moment, we're in Lammas, and I wouldn't celebrate until the equinox on the 21st or 22nd. But because the book's coming out on the 11th, I'm going to put everything up on Friday. We're going early this year because it
Yep.
will.
Book launch.
Yeah, you want to see it in all its glory. I know I do. So the longer it's up, the better. And that will then stay up until the Christmas decks go up. So yeah, I can't wait. Really excited about that.
You are such a winter, an autumn winter
I really am.
person.
Really, really am. Yeah, bring on the cold, dark nights.
While I'm sitting here going, please don't. To be fair, I live right on the coast. It's not the nicest when it gets close to that season.
That must be a bit
dim.
chilly, but yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it gets quite dismal when it gets
Yeah.
to that time of year because it's cold because we get obviously the sea breezes and they get colder
That's
and rougher.
bracing
Yes.
weather. Yeah, well, see, I can still just duck down to the woods, and that's starting to smell so lovely. It smelled really, really damp this morning, and lots of apples, lots of blackberries, lots of rose hips. It's just stunning, beautiful.
Perfect time of year for your book.
Absolutely, and perfect for Clemmy to be posting on her secret Insta account too.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds, as I said, it's very Gilmore Girls or Hallmark film.
Love that. Still waiting for that call, Hallmark. Come on.
That's the thing. I mean, most of their films are based in the US, but they are very much based around a small town with a small community and a cafe and everything else. So it's perfect.
It's Wynbridge. They've pinched Wynbridge. That's what they've done.
They've pinched it and carried it over to small town Illinois.
Yeah.
So maybe they should contact you
I
and say, oh, we want a Christmas film, or we've got the perfect idea for an autumn book, an autumn film. So that would be it.
Yeah, that would be great. Could you imagine? That would be so exciting. I'd love that. One day, that'll be next on my list. That'll be next year. I've done enough for this year. That can be next year.
Then you just have to figure out who you'd want cast.
Oh, see, now that's always an impossible question. People say, oh, well, if you had a film made out of the book, who would you cast in the role?
Oh,
And I never have an answer. Never have an answer for that because I don't visualize somebody in that way when I'm writing them. I see them as they are. So unless you can pluck that person out of my head and make them real.
it goes back to our discussion on the casting on Rivals.
Yes. let's not talk about
we envisage certain people and other people are envisaging others.
Yes, exactly that. So maybe they should all stay within the confines of the book, perhaps. So
but maybe you should, in that case, maybe they should hire you to write a script for an autumn festival film.
Keep talking. I like that. Yeah.
Then you could have everything is, oh, well, I envisage this person. Well, we've got that one. Okay, perfect. That's the person.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be grand. That would be wonderful. I'd love it.
But this one comes out on the 11th.
Yeah.
Which isn't that far away.
Almost Thursday. I know it's
almost perfect for autumn though.
Yeah. It's come around really fast actually, and that's taken me a little bit by surprise. I know it shouldn't have done because I've known what the date's going to be for months. But with the Christmas books, they come out sort of middle of October. So everything is ramping up a month early while I'm still writing the first draft for the book that will come out next summer. So it's quite a hectic time at the moment. There's lots to do.
That's the thing. Your book's coming out the week before the busiest publishing week of the year.
I believe so. Yes.
It's the same week every single year, and every single time I look at it and think, how many books are coming out?
How many books? Yeah.
I think it's the 16th this year. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So we're going a week before that.
Which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it means the market's not absolutely flooded.
No, that will be a good thing. I was very excited on Saturday, I think it was. I went into my local supermarket, and I always have a look at the book section. They've got a really good big book section. So thank you, Tesco Extra, where I live in Norfolk. It's the
Tesco's is
book section.
becoming really good when it comes to book sections, I think.
It's a whole side of an aisle. They have got masses of paperbacks, loads of hardbacks, loads of non-fiction, loads of children's. It's huge. And they still had Best Summer Ever in.
Well, that's fantastic.
I was thrilled because that book published in April and they were still stocking it. And yeah, I was delighted about that. So I haven't managed to get to other supermarkets yet. I don't know if they've also got it in, but
well, hopefully All Wrapped Up will join it on the shelf.
that would be wonderful. If I went there and both books were in, that would be phenomenal because they do look good together. I have put the covers side by side and they do look great. And I like doing that at the end of the year. I put the two books next to each other and think, that's not a bad year's work.
Not at all. That's a fantastic accomplishment.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to eagerly anticipate a spring book and an autumn film.
Okay, yeah, so will I. That will be wonderful.
Manifest.
Yes, yeah, all about that for the autumn.
But thank you so much for joining me. It's really, I love talking with people about the way that they develop their books, their characters, and also who they like the most. Because sometimes you can write a character and think, well, I really didn't like them.
Yeah. And I think that's as important as liking characters too.
Oh, yeah.
Because, that's real life, isn't it? We don't like everybody we meet.
No, which is a sad thing, but because it might prevent a lot of problems.
That's true. But again, perhaps that's another conversation that we want to avoid for today.
100%. So where can people find you on socials? You've mentioned your social media a few times, and obviously you use it very actively. So people will want to follow and see your, especially they want to see your autumn decorations.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you need to find me on Insta for that because I'm going to be all over that. So if you just pop in Heidi Swain, you'll find me on Insta. I am also on Facebook and I have Heidi Swain Author, which is a specific author page where I just share book stuff and nothing else. I've also got an account on Threads. I have a newsletter which I send out every month, which is really, really popular. And I do some exclusive giveaways on there and creative writing prompts and all sorts of things. So that's nice. And I've also got a blog and a website. So yeah, I'm all over it. You can find me anywhere online. Just put Heidi Swain into a search engine and I'll be there. It makes
me feel really lazy. I haven't updated my website in probably since April, actually.
You need to get on that.
I know. I meant to do it last week when I was off work, but then I got distracted by a lot of books.
A lot of books. Well, that's no bad thing. I'm not going to scold you for that.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely talking with you about this book because, as I said, I spoke with a friend who loves nothing but horror. And the minute I started talking, she said, "Oh, that sounds like Hallmark. I like Hallmark."
I love that. Keep spreading the word. I really appreciate it. And thank you very much for inviting me to talk about All Wrapped Up today.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And as I said, All Wrapped Up is released on the 11th of September. So definitely get to maybe Tesco's, maybe some other bookstore and get yourself a copy from next Thursday. I got the day right.
You did get the day right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining both myself and Heidi in this week's episode. Heidi's brand new book, All Wrapped Up, is due for release on the 11th of September. I will be posting links in the notes below, as well as links to Heidi's fantastic Insta account so you can see all of her autumn preparations. If you're enjoying the show, please listen with friends and family and leave a star rating over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, as it really does help with the show's reach. You can find me on Instagram at BeingBookishPod, on X at @being_bookish, and on TikTok at BeingBookishReviews. Prefer reading? Head to beingbookish.co.uk for spoiler-free reviews. I have just started updating there again after a very long time away. My 2025 reading tracker is also there, and you will find all the links to this show in one place. Until next time, this is me saying farewell.